Okay, so today I'm delighted to be back with Patrick Veitch for the third time. Seemed a good time to get back to you, Patrick. Thanks for agreeing to talk to us again. A lot's been going on. How's it been going? Good, I think.
Yeah, I've been keeping very busy. That I've kind of budgeted for this year and next year being very busy and getting on top of a few things, and then hopefully things will just calm down a little. But there's a lot on at the moment. I've been I said last time I was getting involved in some bloodstock projects, and I've done that both with Tony Bloom and Ian McAlevey and with Raceshare, and then the Hong Kong. I reached a point where getting large stakes on UK racing wasn't really going to be worth my while or even possible at all. So I've taken the stage that in the future my betting's mostly going to be Hong Kong, and there's a lot of work on in getting that sorted.
Okay, now you've been extremely successful over the years. Sort of guessing you're not short of a bob or two. What drives you to keep so busy? It can't be money.
I suppose it's for a long time I've not been made that the main priority. That I've tended to do well financially, but the priority has been to, I suppose, improve things for myself and for others. And I've just kind of had it in mind that I wanted to reach a point where perhaps when I wasn't putting as much focus in sort of retirement, probably long in the future, I wasn't just sitting there sort of playing golf and not a lot else to do. And so I've realised that getting to a stage where, for a variety of different reasons, I could go to, say, a major meeting and have a whole selection of runners I had interest in. Maybe that I've bred, maybe that I've bought for Tony and Ian, I've bought for Raceshare, a whole selection of different reasons, and just be a very enjoyable way to sort of spend the last, 20, 30 years, having lots of involvement at the races.
Okay, so you're thinking with lots of pies. Let's talk about Raceshare first. Why did you decide to get involved in that particular syndicate?
Well, there were people ready to set up a syndicate, and I was happy to invest in it because I knew that it was going to be the right people running it. But I also felt that just starting something from scratch where I could potentially use. I felt I had a decent edge at the sales and buying, and hopefully I've made good on that. I thought being able to get into something from the start and use my skills. I wasn't going to have the time to run the syndicate and be involved in all the day-to-day operations, but particularly with the buying, but also I suppose just that little bit of overseeing to make sure it's done right, to make sure that, and I feel we've achieved that somebody with, say, Lydia Hislop's reputation wouldn't have been willing to come on board and, be a consultant. She's meeting for a full day so later this week with the team, and really making sure that we do things right.
Okay, now previous interviews, I've asked you about gambling. It's fair to say you were a little bit sort of ambiguous in your answers because you didn't want us to, people to know your actual sort of secrets to it. Can you tell us what you're looking for when you're buying a horse for Raceshare?
I suppose buying any horse, be it for Tony and Ian, be it for Raceshare, your primary thing is you're looking for a horse that's underrated in I suppose the two key ways. One, in terms of what it's done so far, and two, being the likely outcome in the future. So again, as with punting, there's sort of individual methods that are confidential, but I suppose to talk about, you could talk about an individual horse and say, what do you like about that one? So we've just bought Spaceport. He was bought for sort of like 100,000 to go jumping for Raceshare, and he was a horse. I felt the engine was large. He was a very talented horse, but he wasn't quite getting the best out of himself despite having some very good form. I thought there was better to come because he was fizzy and was just overexerting himself, and it seemed very likely to me that gelding him was going to calm him down. There were three other factors I had as well for liking the horse, but that was probably the number one, that I thought there was a big engine there that was being slightly wasted by him being too fizzy, and just calming him that down, hopefully, which gelding can do. That seemed to be a big move for him.
Okay, when it comes to betting, you're a maths man. Is there an algorithm that you can put into place to pinpoint horses that you want to take a special look at when you go to the sales?
There are a bunch of algorithms. Probably the one that was the hardest work and the most useful, because other people can have opinions about, and be somewhere near on most parts of the pedigree, but it's the compatibility between sire and dam. That's kind of the dark arts that took a lot of very deep analysis to work out, no matter how good you think sire and dam are they going to fit together? And that's something that I did a lot of work on.
Now, talking a bit more about Raceshare, I mean, without this sort of turning into an advert for Raceshare, but you've got 2 tiers now when it comes to pricing. Why is that?
Well, the team felt that having started off with micro shares, there was the opportunity to move into larger shares. So the 100 horses where there's only 100 shares, and that way there were people saying, "Can we get involved in something where there was sort of, that end up with them being 30, 40 owners, that sort of thing, and just a smaller group." And generally, I suppose it fits with that plan that I'd like to be going to the races and having, the more horses ultimately it can expand into, I suppose, the better within reason. But so you've got the micro share where it's, you're using tech to mean that you can distribute the information to a lot of people, but you're aiming to get it sort of a very high quality content, lots of photos, videos, keeping them really interested. And then at the 100 level, they're able to have direct contact with the racing manager. They're guaranteed stable visits. They're Zoom calls with the trainer. So they're just getting that closer involvement. But that's at a higher price point where it's more like £1,000 a share.
And have you found that you assume that people that buy into a syndicate like Raceshare, birthday presents, sort of little novelty things like that, but have you found that there are people that actually would have the resources to buy their own horse, are sort of dipping their toe in at the bottom level to test the water?
Yeah, we've already had a couple of people move on to the whole horse. Equally, we say with 100 shares, some people buy one, but we've had other people buying, into double figures. We've always had that target. The team making sure that they're trying to make the owners feel probably more informed than they would if they owned the whole horse, because there's a team of people there getting extra information for them, the photos, the videos, etc.
Okay, so talking about information, I mean, what you're known for first and foremost is successfully gambling. When the owners turn up at wherever the Raceshare horse is running, have you gone through the form of that race with a fine tooth comb and come up with an idea for what to bet in the race?
It's not meant, in principle, it's not a tipping or betting service. It's there about owning and aiming to win some good races. Again, with all the different things I've got on, I'm not running the day-to-day operations. I'm not typically going to be there. I am from time to time, but things like the previews and that's done by the team. Of course, if I see something if I particularly think that needs stepping up in distance, I'll very much, after buying them, going to keep an eye on the horses. And if there's something I think that sort of, that really needs a different situation, I'll obviously pass that on to the team. They have said sort of, obviously some of the members like to have a meet-up and that sort of thing, so I have agreed we'll have a day for the 100 members where they can come along and have a day where they can meet and chat to me about betting and breeding and owning and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's something we are going to do. And even us, obviously we can't organise a special day for the micro shares because the service fee is only to Raceshare is only £12 per person per year. But still, it's nice that I do bump into to Raceshare people at the races, and it's nice to chat to them along the way.
Well, I'm assuming you do study them. You go into some depth in the races that they're running in. I mean, if you looked and you thought, blimey, this is actually a bet, would you sort of pass that info on?
I'm not studying UK racing hard at the moment. Isn't particularly day to day something, because I've got all these projects on, and because the available stakes have got so low. It's not something I'm generally doing day to day. So as I keep an eye on the horses, but that's done largely by the team. I haven't bet on any of the horses. I've set that as a standard that it has to be fair to the owners. They own the horse; it's their horse, and so very much they know that it's an assurance there. It's not going to be me betting on them. But as I say, I'll pass on if I have a view about as I see the horses run.
Okay, so that's interesting. You mentioned there, so it leads me on to the next sort of topic. What is your situation these days when it comes to betting on UK racing?
So I have algorithms working, so without having to study in great detail, I'd have a view on each race based on that. But generally speaking, that's mostly going to take care of itself now. I'll upgrade the routines and that sort of thing. But it reached a point where studying the form, studying the videos just wasn't worth it for the stakes I could get. Getting bets on with bookmakers is basically a spent situation for me. So now if I was betting, if I was betting in stakes of sort of hundreds and that sort of thing, I would still very much stick with the UK because that's what I know best. But we've reached the point where, for one, to bet for the larger stakes, the liquidity is so much higher in Hong Kong. So that's where the attention is going to be for me with day-to-day punting going forward.
It's interesting you're still doing all the work. Well, the algorithms are still doing all the work. Would you ever sort of consider passing on your, what your ratings? I assume you come up with.
Generally speaking, I suppose that's like you said before that about the last interview that to keep your edges you have to sort of it generally works better if I keep the edges that way. So in terms of punting, I tend to keep my own counsel. But certainly there's some people coming in with me on the Hong Kong operation, so we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, so it's been quite well reported that you're sort of doing, you're concentrating on Hong Kong. Have you actually started to bet on it yet?
No, that won't come till certainly September, the new season starting in September. There's a lot of preparation in getting that starting from scratch, a lot of data to get together. And also, I just kind of find my feet. So hopefully I'll be going to Hong Kong in the new year. I've been before, but not as a racing specialist. Just been on holiday before. So, slow process. Even that first year from September onwards won't be anything like where I'll be aiming to be in the future. It's just gradually finding my feet.
And is that decision just purely because it's impossible for you to get enough on to make it pay now?
Yeah, it just, as I say, I'm confident a lot of the algorithms will work on other sort of racing jurisdictions, and so it's not, as I say, just reached the point where where I still very much enjoy UK racing, but just bigger stakes.
Okay, now you spent a lifetime getting to know UK racing inside out. Is getting to that level of understanding in another jurisdiction possible in such a short period of time?
Well, hopefully it's not a short period of time. That's probably why I'm taking so long. So the first bet will be after sort of 2 years of preparations, and then, as I say, steady away from there. Some things will be different, no doubt, but hopefully I've got a feel for which things were weaker in the UK. Lots of different tracks and different surfaces, and there's more intricacies to the UK, and hopefully I've got a feel for what will be harder over there and what will be easier, and how I need to adapt things. There's a lot of subjective input will go into how that changes.
Is the sort of the grass level knowledge of racing, as in the UK, that important to know, or is it all about the maths?
It's not all about the maths, but that's a lot of it. But yeah, sort of. One of the advantages of Hong Kong is that although I don't want it to be full time, with only sort of 70-80 meetings a week, 70-80 meetings a year, sounds like the UK, 70-80 meetings a year, I only have to watch, sort of 2 meetings a week on the review, and I like to think by now I have got a good eye for that, and so outside of what comes up algorithmically, I can add in opinions of mine, and that's hopefully an advantage I'd have over the people who are just sort of machine.
Okay, do you sort of feel a certain amount of mourning for leaving sort of UK racing, or are you quite hard-nosed about it as being just a medium for business?
Well, I'm actually enjoying UK racing more than for many years, because now that I've accepted the frustration of the reduced stakes, and that's no longer something that's concerning me. I've basically written off betting with bookmakers on UK racing. And so having the situation with both Raceshare and Tony and Ian there's been lots of interest there going on, but it's something that's as I say, it's not by any means full time, and syndicates have been doing really well. Of course, Raceshare isn't the only good syndicate, so I see that as something that's going to continue to grow, I've really been enjoying that. I'm not sort of distant from UK racing. I'm just not studying it hard day to day. Although for the sales at sales time, that really is very, very intensely getting involved in trying to make sure I get that right.